George Balekji here with Dakota, Randall inside Gillette Stadium. The Patriots are a week and a half away from kicking off the regular season in Miami, but today we saw their practice squad because after trimming the roster down to 53 guys yesterday, a lot of notable names back on the practice field today. Dakota, who stuck out to you out of the guys that went to waivers, cleared it, and are back with the Pats?
Well, I do think it's important to note that we don't necessarily know who is on the practice squad yet because Ty Montgomery and Tyquan Thorne still had to be put on short-term IR, so that'll open up 2 spots in the 53-man roster. So we don't know who's going to fill those yet. But I think as far as players that were back at practice today after being cut yesterday, I think J.J. Taylor is a big one. I could easily see him being elevated in week 1 to be the passing down back. Little Jordan Humphrey and Trey Nixon, 2 receivers that people were wondering if they can make the roster. Didn't work out. Now they're back. Linebacker Cameron Grown, we've all talked about, and then James Ferentz, the offensive lineman. Wouldn't surprise me if he's elevated too to give them some offensive line depth. And then another one, defensive lineman LeBrian Ray was kind of a surprise cut yesterday. We all thought he was going to make the 53-man roster. He was really good throughout training camp in the preseason. Was a surprise cut, but now he's back, and we'll see if he's on the practice squad or the 53-man roster.
Practice squad will be finalized today at 4 p.m. Now, as for the guys we didn't see back in the Patriots uniform, who stuck out to you as absent and obviously did not be re-signed by the Pats?
Yeah, so the only player who was cut by the Patriots or put on waivers and then was claimed by another team was third-year tight end Devin Asiasi. By now, we know the deal with him. Patriots drafted him in the 3rd round along with Dalton Keene back in 2020. Now, neither player is on the roster, so he will be playing elsewhere this season. And then special teamer Justin Bethel, we kind of thought that he wouldn't be back because an Instagram post that he had yesterday sort of indicated that he was moving on. Still, we were wondering if he'd be back as he's one of the best special teams gunners in the NFL, but he's not back. So I think those are 2 notable guys that were on the roster last season that won't be back this year.
DeMarcus Mitchell, of course, Brendan Schooler, and Matt Slater, the 3 special teamers that'll stick around on the Pats for this season. Now, like I said, a week and a half until the kickoff in Miami against the Dolphins. This feels like a conversation we should be having back in the beginning of training camp, but we're still having it now. Where do you see the Patriots needing work on the most as they prepare for that week 1 game in Miami?
Well, the big thing for the Patriots is they can't afford to get off to a slow start. Last year they got off to a slow start and kind of got bailed out by having a soft schedule in the middle of the season, and then they obviously faded down the stretch. I don't think they can afford that this year. I think the schedule, they have a bit of a softer stretch in the middle, but overall, wire to wire, I think it's pretty tough. So they need to win that game in Miami. And so they got to do whatever they need to figure out how to win that game. So they got to decide, do we still run some of the stuff, some of the offensive plays that they've run training camp and preseason that honestly have been a disaster, whether it's in practices or in preseason games. They got to figure out if they're comfortable running any of that stuff, or do they need to significantly dial it back and simplify things and just figure out what they do best. So they got a lot to figure out on offense, but figuring out what they can most effectively run against the Dolphins to get a victory is the most important thing over the next, 2 weeks or so.
In the last 2 preseason games, the first team offense only counted for 1 touchdown in all the drives they had. Until this regular season kicks off, keep it locked in with Dakota, Randall, myself right here on Nesson for full coverage.